we are standing enough candidates, we hope, notionally, to form a government. That means I'm running to be Prime Minister. So you'd be better focusing on me than a man that used to be a candidate for us.
Now, the Workers' Party of Britain launched its election campaign this weekend with the aim of standing candidates in 500 constituencies. Its first and only MP, and also the party leader, George Galloway, he returned to Parliament in February when he won the Rochdale by-election, having previously represented both Labour and Respect as an MP. Now he describes Labour as his party's number one enemy because we seek to replace them. Former England cricketer Monty Panesar had been the party's most high-profile recruit, after George Galloway himself, of course. His short-lived campaign began like this.
England cricket ace Monty Panesar.
Thank you. I'm sure everyone's probably asking the big question, why have I joined this party? And I think the only reason is I'm here to represent the working class people.
Well, that was then. But then, speaking to Times Radio shortly before he stepped down, Monty Panesar admitted he actually didn't know much about the party's main policies.
I've actually, when it comes to NATO, if you ask my opinion, it's not like I'm not really an expert. I don't have a lot of knowledge on it, to be honest. So
it's the number one priority of the party you've joined. It's interesting. You could have joined any party. You could have worked your way into any party. Their number one point on their 10-point plan for Britain is end to imperialist wars and financial domination, starting with withdrawal from NATO. It's quite a big deal withdrawing from NATO at a time of global conflict.
Well, that was then. That's all happened. Let's move on now. I'm joined by the Workers' Party leader, George Galloway. George, welcome to the programme. It's good to have you. You said at the start that you hope to field 500 candidates. It's a lot for a small party. How's that going?
Well, I'm stumped as to why you would waste time you could have spent talking to me, talking about a candidate who isn't standing for us. We've got hundreds of candidates standing, many of them very high-profile people indeed. Keith Mason, the rugby league star, for example, is standing for us in Wakefield with a very high chance of winning. We are standing enough candidates, we hope, notionally, to form a government. That means I'm running to be Prime Minister. So you'd be better focusing on me than a man that used to be a candidate for us.
But it wasn't too long ago, George Galloway, when you appeared on programmes like this, picking up Monty Panesar as your best-known candidate. So I think it's only fair.
Well, I only met him once in my life, and I only spoke about him once in my life. So why are we bogged down in the outer field here?
Well, let me come back to
I know I'm sitting in a rural setting, but I'm just outside Birmingham, where there are hundreds of thousands of people living in cold, damp houses who need warm, dry houses, while you and the boys were talking about your toys that we should be buying for more and more war, more and more weapons. I was counting up the number of people on the National Health Service waiting list. I was counting up the number of people being treated in chairs in hospitals. I was thinking about the potholes and about the parlous state of the public realm. And wondering why all these politicians are vying with each other today about how much of our national treasure we can spend on more and more weapons. And by the way, weapons built overseas, Andrew. I represented a warship yard in Glasgow and procured more Type 23 frigates than any MP in history. I got all 5.
Yeah, and they're still all built on the Clyde. They're not built abroad. No, but I
prefer if we bought our own.
Right, well, we do by and large buy our own, but that's not the issue. If you hope to be Prime Minister, I ask what I originally started with. How many candidates will you have in the election?
Well, I'll tell you that when the nominations close, but at this point in time, we've got 326, which, as I say, is a notional parliamentary majority.
And that's
which is why we should be on the national televised debate.
But you'd have to win every seat then.
I did use the word notional, and with your excellent Scottish education, you know what notional means.
I do.
But we are running, unlike Plaid Cymru or the SNP, we are running enough candidates to be the government of Britain, notionally.
Right.
That's why we should be in the leaders' debate.
So given
but
this,
thanks to ITV, we're not.
Well, given this ambition and that you want to win all these seats, have you had quite strong vetting processes for your candidates? I mean, make sure that you're not picking any anti-Semitic candidates, good guardrails. For example, you've picked Craig Murray. He's a former ambassador, but he also thinks the Salisbury poisoning was done by the Israelis. Are you a bit worried about some of your candidates?
Actually, we've got two former British ambassadors standing, Craig Murray and Peter Ford. We're very proud of both of them. Doesn't mean we all agree on all issues and interpretation of all news events, but we have the best vetting system that we can as a small party, which is quadrupled in size in 100 days and lacks the resources of the other big parties. So candidates drop out, candidates are dropped. But we are confident that the vast majority of our candidates, if elected, would do the party proud.
And if you don't become Prime Minister on July the 5th, what would success look like?
We would influence the result in scores of constituencies. That's why I don't quite get the Times hostility. The reality is we are the big threat to Labour. In any logical polity, right-wing newspapers like the Times would not be spending their time trying to denigrate and even, if you'll forgive me with your introduction, humiliate us. We are a threat to Labour in at least 100 places. We can either beat them or we can cause them to lose, because the Labour Party is, as you pointed out in your introduction, our number one enemy.
And
for the reason that the Conservatives are the wolves, but Labour are the foxes. They appear to be smiling, but in fact their intentions are exactly the same as that of the wolf, which is to eat the living standards of the working people of this country and cheat the working people of this country with their fiendish schemes. So we want to replace the Labour Party. We're the ghost of what Labour once was.
Would it
We're
matter
Tony
to you?
Benn Labour.
Would it matter to you if you did so well that it stopped Labour forming a government?
No, I would regard that as a considerable triumph.
Even if the Conservatives continued in power?
Our goal here is the hung Parliament, and whomsoever is the biggest party would then have to negotiate with all the other forces in the House of Commons about a programme for government. It wouldn't be a coalition, but it would be a price list that we would have. And the first item on that price list would be a reform of our electoral system so that seats in the House of Commons were allocated proportionally according to the vote that people achieve. People like Farage, for example, in the past have gained 1 million and more votes and got no seats.
Okay.
We might very well gain 500,000 votes and get no seats, or a very small number of them. So that would be our first item on our price list.
Right.
We have others.
Of course. And I hope during the campaign we can come back to that. But for the moment, this is my final question to you. You've pointed out that what you've had to say about Gaza and the Middle East has appealed not just to British Muslims, but also to a lot of young people. But can you keep that sort of young people, British Muslim coalition together, given your recently expressed views on LGBT relationships? I mean, does that coalition last? Because probably most young people don't agree with you on that.
Oh, some of the young people in my own family don't agree with me on that. I'm old-fashioned, Andrew. I'm a man of my age and class. I believe in mum, dad, and the kids. And I offer my congratulations to your proprietor, Mr. Murdoch, on his latest nuptials. I believe in marriage. I believe in families. I'm a family values kind of guy. Not everyone in the Workers' Party is. And even I myself have tried lots of different styles of life. I just happen to know by this age that mum, dad, and the kids is the best way.
All right, look, we'll leave it there for now, but it'd be good to speak to you again if you can find the time during the campaign.
Sure, of course. Always for you.
Thank you. That was George Galloway.